Namaskar and welcome to the first edition of our special series on India-UN partnership to mark 75th anniversary of United Nations. Listeners may recall India has been one of the founding members of the world body. Today we are celebrating International Day of Peace. We have with us Mr. Ananta K. Durayappa, Director of the UNESCO Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development. Based in New Delhi, it is a UNESCO's Category 1 research institute with the focus on SDG Goal 4.7 on education for building peaceful and sustainable societies across the world. Mr. Durappa has an experience of over 35 years in the field of education, environment, peace and sustainable development. Mr. Durayappa, what is the significance of International Year of Peace and is there any specific theme this year?
Well, a little bit of a history. As many people would know, the International Day of Peace was established in 1981 by the United Nations General Assembly. It's observed around the world on 21st September, that's today. Now, 2 decades later, in fact in 2001, the General Assembly kind of designated the day as a period of non-violent and ceasefire. And I think that holds a lot of significance in the sense that we have had global peace since World War II, but we have also seen a marked increase in regional conflicts, smaller but regional conflicts, and that's been increasing. And so having a day globally, a ceasefire with no violence, would really let us sit back and reflect on our actions and sort of say, how do we do better?
The international community is grappling with challenges from conflict resolution to meet the needs and aspirations of the people. At the same time, there is a constant yearning for peace. How do you look at the role of United Nations in this scenario?
Well, I see the UN as the key intellectual powerhouse in fostering peace. I see the UN as addressing global public goods, which kind of transcends borders where countries by themselves would have difficulty in finding solutions. So bringing in terms of peace, bringing in the latest of the science of peace, how UNESCO Charter helps in pushing towards this kind of an approach, and the role of the United Nations. The United Nations also provides a great platform for the younger generation. I see the youth as our future as well as our conscience. And I think the UN is the perfect platform to kind of voice the voices of the youth.
Mr. Durayappa, we all know that UN has held many conversations on its 75th anniversary. What are the conversations emerging from youth around peace? How do you see youth contributing to peace and sustainable development?
From the streets to the web, and we have such a connected world these days, the virtual world, and the youth are basically digital citizens. So you see so much of activity there where young people are demanding a say in the decisions that affect their present and their future. And one of the most visible ones are on climate change. You see the youth saying enough is enough. We want something to be done because this is our future. This is what we have to inherit and this is where we have to live in. And that kind of movement is replicated for other global goods like education and health. And if you look at how globalization has had such an impact, the youth want to have a say in the way that's going to evolve over the next 20 to 30 years. So I see youth as drivers of change in the future. And if you look at India itself with its massive youth population, more than 800 million below the age of 34, that's a massive momentum, a double dividend, as you can say, that the UN as well as with member states can take advantage of in moving in the right direction. Now you talk about, how do you see them? I think one of the things that the UN can really push for, and it's not about telling the youth what to do. I think those days are gone. The top-down is not the way to approach this particular problem. And, at UNESCO, especially with the Gandhi Institute, we take very, very seriously what Socrates used to quip when he says that I cannot teach anybody anything, I can only make them think. And so one of the things that we should really focus on is building skills such as critical inquiry. But equally important is emotional resilience, empathy and compassion. And this is where I think this year's Day of Peace is a day of compassionate action, and the youth can play a major role in this.
Questions are also being raised about multilateralism. Mr. Durayappa, do you think multilateralism will survive?
It is coming under attack, as you can see across the world. And the pandemic, now experiencing the COVID-19, has really put multilateralism under a microscope. I believe that the role that the UN played, especially with the specialized agencies, the WHO, the World Health Organization, which moved very rapidly, as well as other organizations like UNESCO itself on education. These are problems that transcend borders. And the pandemic has shown that we cannot isolate ourselves from these kind of problems. We need to cooperate. We need to work together. We need to put together our resources, which are scarce. We get the maximum return on our investments. As Carl Sagan said, we live, he calls this world the blue dot. It's a very small dot in the cosmos. And this is what we call our home. And we need to look after it very carefully. But the only way we can look after it very carefully is that we work together, and multilateralism is a necessary condition. It's no longer an option. That's the only hope that we have as humanity as we move towards in the future.
India celebrates 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, an apostle of peace. How strongly his belief and values have been intertwined with UN?
We recently had an event where we developed a hologram of Gandhi, and we had a dialogue with him. And we took some of his speeches, primarily focused on education. And we found that a lot of it we haven't really achieved many of the issues that he was talking about. We talk about satyagraha, we talk about ahimsa, but we have to go beyond the rhetoric. We have to actually practice it. The UNESCO Charter begins with, since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that defenses for peace must be constructed. And so we need to have a mindset which is very different. It's difficult to find solutions with a mindset that created the problems. And so we can take aspiration from the lives of Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and others in terms of how nonviolence really plays. That's the only way that we can find peace. We can't use force and subdue others. People have different perspectives. Gandhi always welcomed those different perspectives, to have a dialogue, to listen, to put oneself in the other person's shoe, to sort of say, what would it feel like? These are essential skills that we need to really find peace, rather than just talking about peace and it becoming an intellectual exercise in our head. It has to be practiced. And this is where I think we have hope, because the science of peace says that the seeds of our peace are within the brains, within our own brains. Work by Sapolsky from Stanford have shown that the same things that create violence are also the same seeds of peace. And we can train our brains to be compassionate, to be empathetic to other living beings. We are in a situation, I think it's a very serious situation, where data and statistics say that, putting aside the COVID, mental health has been on an increase. I was very surprised that within India itself, 25% of kids between the age of 13 and 15 have some form of mental health, depression, anxiety, stress. How can we find peace with others when we are fighting demons within ourselves? So the first step is, how do we provide the emotion regulations, the whole notion of mindfulness. These are things that doesn't come natural, and I think we need to train ourselves, especially in a world which is so caught up in terms of economic growth. It's about getting the best of others. We need to really dig within ourselves, and this is very rooted in most cultures. It's rooted in the Indian culture, it's in the Eastern cultures, and even in the West. So the first thing is finding peace within ourselves, and after which then we can actually start relating with others. And this, I think, is the steps that we need to take, and UNESCO, and especially the Gandhi Institute, has taken this on as its main mandate, and in the work that we have been doing over the last 5 to 6 years.
Mr. Durayappa, you head Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Education and Peace, which is named after Mahatma Gandhi. How is MGIEP's peace work linked to Gandhiji? And you spoke about turning rhetoric into reality. How do you see the road ahead as we see multiple challenges in a complex social setup?
So the institute, we are a relatively young institute. We were inaugurated in 2012, so we've been around for about 6 to 8 years. What we have found with the pilot studies that we do, we are a research institute, and what we have found, especially when we did it with about 6 countries, children in grades 8 to 10, just short intervention of 10 weeks has improved, and we used standardized, scientifically proven assessments. We have found improvements in empathy and compassion among these children, an understanding and respect to others who are different. The whole me versus them, we saw it dwindling over these 10 weeks. And these are cultures which are very different. 6 different cultures, very different in gender, in difference in religion. But they all found a common place. And so I think mainstreaming this approach in our education systems will have a profound effect, if not in this generation, in our next generation. We shouldn't try to rush this, because we need to do this in a strategic, thought-through process. And I think one of the first things is the education system is the one that provides the best investment in terms of changing the mindsets to look at peace as part of our natural inclination, not violence, but it's peace. That's our natural inclination as human beings. And I'm happy to say that when we looked at the new education policy that the government of India rolled out, social and emotional learning is an integral part of that policy. And I think the government has recognized this, and it's accepting this, and to sort of say it goes beyond just learning for exams, but is more about building the human being. The human flourishing is the most important. And when one flourishes, we flourish together as a species. And so that's what I think we need to look forward to. And I'm very positive and optimistic that we can do it, because we have the data and evidence to say that this works, and this works really well, and the returns are very high.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Durayappa, for sharing your thoughtful insights onto the issue, which has ramifications across the globe as we observe International Day of Peace.
Thank you very much.